Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today we're comparing two satanic panic inspired films in Babysitter, Wanted, and The House of the Devil.
I'm Samantha, the babysitter.
We've never done this kind of comparison video, but when Deke, our top donator over on Patreon, reached out to us with both of these movies, he suggested that they have a very similar path and they kind of deviate at some point. So we watched them back to back, and we're gonna talk about everything. This is gonna be filled with spoilers, but we're gonna talk about the comparisons, and then we're gonna talk about how they split off and which film kind of did it better or differently, I guess. The House of the Devil is a movie that people talk about all the time. It's written and directed by Ty West and stars Jocelyn Donahue as Samantha, our main lead. Babysitter Wanted came out the previous year and is written and directed by Jonas and stars Sarah Thompson as Angie. The whole plot of these movies seems like a teacher said, hey, this is the assignment. We want to make a babysitter that goes to a house and there's some kind of devil worship involved. Do with that as you will and figure something out. And the fact that these came out like only a year apart is really interesting. I don't think either one copied each other, but it is funny that there are a lot of comparisons.
Obviously, both these films are satanic ritual based, but it's our main leads that have a similar path and backstory. Where in Babysitter Wanted, you have Angie, who is leaving home for the first time. She's a college student and finds her roommate situation is not ideal, so she takes the babysitting job to try and make things better. And in the other film with The House of the Devil, Samantha, also in college, and is looking for a new place to stay, but can't afford it because she's also not in a good living arrangement and takes a babysitting job to try and pay for her rent. So both of our girls are doing the exact same thing in taking a job that they don't want, but need the money, so they're gonna work it anyways.
And the fact that they are both finding a new place, going to a new college, their roommates are almost identical in the way that they act, where they're much different than the pure innocent girls that we have as our main leads. They're sleeping with these weird guys that are just there and basically personalityless. And their sides of the room and or apartments are just a disaster, where our girls are just like the most normal girls. They are without flaw, I guess, to some degree.
The only real difference with Angie, this is her first time leaving home, and her backstory is her and her mom are very religious. So they're both pure, but they're pure in different aspects. So it also helps develop their character differently as the story progresses.
They both get their job from the exact same style board at the college. They grab the little number off the thing and they make a call, and they both get the job. Both even go to an isolated house in the middle of nowhere.
You weren't kidding when you said this place was out here.
I mean, hey, they live all the way out here in the country.
And they each needed to get a lift. Angie gets one from a boy she just met named Rick, and Samantha gets a ride from her friend Megan. This is where the two movies start to get a little bit different.
Because now we're being introduced to the people who are looking for the babysitter. In one film with Babysitter Wanted, you have what appears to be this wholesome family who have their son named Sam, who is the person Angie's gonna babysit. So with this film, you have the family, it's established right away, nothing weird or out of place seems to be happening. Whereas The House of the Devil, nothing is established until like later on in the film, and when we meet the people looking for the babysitter, every situation Sam is presented with is a red flag.
This job tonight is not for our child, but for my wife's mother.
Megan calls it out, the right call, by the way.
The game plan was, if they're weird, we leave. This is beyond weird, it's mental.
That's where this film is like, okay, you know something is wrong with this family, you know the situation is wrong, so it shouldn't be a surprise at the end of the film. Whereas in Babysitter Wanted, you're still trying to figure out, is this home invasion? Who's creeping? Because this one has a stalker that acts almost as our red herring.
In The House of the Devil, we do have AJ Bowen kind of creeping around, and you're not quite sure what's going on with that.
Other than the fact that he killed Megan right away.
He does kill Megan, but also in Babysitter Wanted, we find out that Rick is also out of the situation. He's not dead, but we're led to believe that he's dead for most of the movie. Samantha's not looking after a baby or a little cowboy. She's to look after an old woman who is living in the attic. She doesn't meet this person until later on in a very weird situation. And Angie's looking after Sam, the cowboy kid, who's sleeping most of the time. Both of them are just kind of dinking around, trying to figure out what they can possibly do in the house. And they each need to make phone calls that are shot in very similar manners. Some of the shot types in both movies are very similar as well, just from like a framing perspective. Though House of the Devil leans harder into like the 80s aesthetic, and it pulls it off so good.
Yeah, when we're talking cinematic styles, you definitely get more of like an Italian cinema feel. That's what it feels like, how it's shot, how they utilize camera movements way more. So they do a lot of tracking shots, they do a lot of like zooms, and it's a lot of the camera moving to create that tension. Whereas in Babysitter Wanted, it's darker and grittier. So they're very opposite in how they present themselves.
Getting to the satanic part, because that's what we're all here for. On one hand, we have Babysitter Wanted, where we find out that the young boy is actually the son of the devil, complete with horns under his cowboy hat, and he eats raw meat and drinks buttermilk. And that raw meat is actually like young women's flesh. That's his preference.
And that's what's funny is like when you're first introduced to Sam in this one, he's licking his lips and looking all creepy at Angie, and you're thinking, all right, like something's up, but you don't know what it is because he's an awkward kid. But now you know, he just really wanted to eat her.
Then in House of the Devil, it's more of like a slow burn as Samantha starts to realize, wait a second, this isn't Tom Noonan's house. This is somebody else's house. As she finds some photographs, she realizes there was another family living here, and we as the audience see that they were killed and the child was sacrificed in a pentagram, and you're like, oh shit. This is a satanic movie, if you couldn't tell by the opening caption talking about satanic panic. We finally get a glimpse of that.
Yeah, so this is where the movies are basically opposites in how they deliver the satanic panic theme, where one is all about the ritual and creating a devil, the other is there is a physical devil that needs to be fed. The twists of these films are very different, and in one, it's way more evident than the other. Babysitter Wanted is a twist that, yes, you can suspect something is going on, but most people won't see that coming. In The House of the Devil, you know, like right away, you're like, yeah, this is not a good situation. The reveal was not shocking by any means.
And that's also what's interesting about the pacing of each movie, because they are way different. House of the Devil, slow burn. Babysitter Wanted, much faster paced, and even has comedic elements in it, especially when we learn of Mr. Stanton and when he's actually like cutting women up in front of Angie. He comes off almost like a knockoff Bruce Campbell mixed with Negan from Walking Dead, like a James Dean Morgan kind of situation.
It is so nice to have somebody out here to talk to. I'm always out here alone doing this.
It's way different, but they both encompass this whole satanic cult situation.
Of course, we have to compare now how our girls have grown in this film, how they've become the final girl. In Babysitter Wanted, there's more interaction with the struggle of Angie trying to escape. We see that she is trapped, and we see the people who are trying to kill her. There's a different feel of tension, there's a different feel of survival in this film, whereas with Samantha, we don't see any interaction or struggle with her until the very end where she's tied up and it's over like that. If I'm being honest, I think Angie is a stronger final girl than Samantha, because you really see her come into her own and she slowly develops and starts off by defending Sam, and then finding out that Sam is actually the bad person. Now she's trying to survive. And also you have Bill Moseley in Babysitter Wanted, who is the police officer, and you're expecting these moments where Bill's gonna come in to save her, or Rick. So you have these situations that you're like, oh, when's this gonna happen? How are they gonna get out? Who's all gonna survive? Whereas in The House of the Devil, it's literally just Samantha in the house by herself. We know Megan is dead, and it's just her fighting for herself, not for others.
In both movies, despite going their opposite directions, are similar in the sense that the girls somewhat escape danger with the baddies defeated, including a hospital scene. Angie goes back, she's in a hospital, we find out Rick's alive, and they decide to go get the sacrificial knife and try and hunt down the kid that has escaped. Whereas Samantha was part of this satanic ritual, the family was trying to make her basically give birth to the devil or the Antichrist, and they were successful. And that's like a way darker ending. She kills AJ Bowen, she kills Mary Warrenoff, she doesn't kill the old witch lady who did the ritual in the first place, and she leaves Tom Noonan behind. She goes to a graveyard, but he's in tow, and she just takes a gun and shoots herself. She lives, and she's seemingly safe in a hospital bed with nothing going on until we find out that she is still giving birth to the devil.
Don't worry. You're gonna be just fine. Both of you.
In one movie we have the devil's already been born, in the other it's about to be born. As for final thoughts, I think that both did a great job with the style that they were going for. I enjoyed myself with both of these, even though we kind of knew what we were getting into because you know that there's going to be some kind of satanic thing involved. Although Babysitter Wanted we watched and we didn't know that. I liked both approaches, but The House of the Devil seems like a more polished and more enjoyable version simply because of the way that the cinematography was. It came down to the style for me, and it was different. A slow burn satanic movie with a cool style, really great cinematography that has a really dark ending where nobody wins. Oh, she's just going to live and give birth to the devil. Like, that's cool. So I was a much bigger fan of The House of the Devil.
And it's funny because I thoroughly appreciated the aesthetics of The House of the Devil. I loved the cinematography. It's a visually more appealing movie, but for overall story and character development, I definitely think that Babysitter Wanted was better in that aspect. I really enjoyed the story more with Babysitter Wanted because the twist was good, the reveal was great, and there was more happening. Not to say that the slow burn was bad in The House of the Devil, it's just if I had to watch these movies again, I would go more towards Babysitter Wanted, and I would recommend that one first over The House of the Devil.
If you're interested in these kind of movies, this is a great double feature. We had a really good time watching them back to back. And another double feature that I would recommend, it's in a similar vein, We Summon the Darkness and Satanic Panic. Those are definitely more on the comedic side, but both enjoyable nonetheless. It also involves Satan. If you guys have other movies that would be a great double feature that just makes sense to kind of make comparisons with, let us know in the comments. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything here on Bloodbath and Beyond.